Why is it that we look up to the stars and dream of a life beyond Earth? Think of all the complexities in your life. Your family, your friends, your pets, your car, your apartment, your job, anything you could possibly think of. Your lifelong goals, your short-term struggles. All of this on a planet larger than anyone could actually explore in depth in a lifetime. And yet we still think of going beyond. There's a reason that films like 2001, Interstellar, The Martian, Gravity, and others have had such long-lasting cultural impacts and received such positive reviews from critics and fans alike. 2001 focuses on incomprehensible forms of life that may be just outside our grasp. Interstellar focuses on the most powerful force in the universe, giant black holes. The Martian shows the lengths people will go to for survival and how they can push all else aside to focus on solving a single problem at a time. But there's a film that has just recently entered into this list of some of the greatest space exploration films of all time. Project Hail Mary. Now, you certainly don't need me to sit here and explain to you all the reasons why this movie's amazing. There's 100 other videos on that, and you can go watch them if you please. But I too would die for Rocky. No, today I'm here to pay it forward, to teach you, yes you dear YouTube viewer, about a film that belongs on this list that you probably have not seen. Andrei Tarkovsky's Solaris. Actually, we're talking about more than just Solaris, but that's the only one that really fits with the theme of this intro, so please go with it. But let's pause for a second here. No, I didn't clickbait you. This video is not just about Solaris. It is about Project Hail Mary. However, this is the final for my Tarkovsky cinema class. It is, in fact, my final of all of college. So, if you are here, please leave some kind words down below so that Professor DeLuca knows that I understand ball knowledge and I deserve an 105% on this project. Thank you. Also, subscribe. Believe it or not, as I sat down to look at modern day films inspired by the work of Tarkovsky, a Russian filmmaker whose movies are often pretty slow, with a dour tone, they keep a small cast of characters, and they answer these big questions and ideas of the power and beauty of nature, the loss and importance of faith, I could not get Project Hail Mary out of my head. Yes, this grand space adventure starring a talking rock with Ryan Gosling proving once again he just like me for real. I think it's inspired by Tarkovsky. A whole range of works from his filmography, not even just one. Even depressed Russian filmmakers can look at Ryan and go, oh my god, he me for real. Ryan really is the people's hero. On the surface, Project Hail Mary is actually the anti-Tarkovsky movie in a lot of ways. It is fast-paced, constantly throwing new challenges at the characters for them to face as quickly as possible. Ryland Grace is not some stoic, grizzled protagonist who's seen a lot of the world and needs to just quietly reflect on it. He's just a silly little guy. The film glorifies space exploration and gives the audience a sense of, oh my god, that is so cool, I want to go to space, instead of making them feel closer and more connected to their life at home and the importance of nature and Mother Earth. But all of that is very surface level. If you dig just a little bit deeper, you find a film that is all about faith. Not just in a higher power, but faith in oneself and the importance of maintaining that faith. And it explores the things that happen when that faith is gone. It's a film that in the modern Hollywood system actually manages to do a lot of this stuff practically, and show us something that we've truly never seen before. The film highlights the natural wonder of light, the very thing that allows us to see and interact with the natural world around us. And a film that is all about showcasing the power of nature, and that no matter what technology humans develop, we're still powerless to fight against it. It is now impossible for me to look at this film and not see influences from Tarkovsky's work, and if you stick around till the end of this video, you might just feel the same way. As I mentioned, one of Tarkovsky's better known films is Solaris, a sci-fi film released in 1972. It's often viewed as an ideological or cinematic counter to 2001: A Space Odyssey, one that actually looks down upon the space race. I actually wrote an entire other kind of brief paper comparing the two, but we don't really have to go too deep into that. It's just a cool little fun fact for you. To boil it down, Tarkovsky couldn't understand why humanity was so desperate to try and leave Earth behind and expand out among the stars when we were nowhere close to perfecting life on Earth. Not only is our world already so full of conflict and prejudice, not only among each other, but each individual person has all these skeletons in their closet, all these demons in their past, that attempting to explore the universe will really only serve to bring these to the forefront. The line that I really like repeating about this movie, I change the phrasing every time, but it sounds very cool, is the true event horizon is the one that leads beyond the eyes and into your consciousness. Eyes are the window to the soul, after all. Now, it would be fair to say that Project Hail Mary is the very antithesis of this idea. The mission is only possible due to the collaboration of dozens of world governments operating with discretion. But it's made pretty clear by the film that this is a very temporary arrangement. Global scientists are probably going to be the best at putting their differences aside for the greater good, but when the sun dims enough, the crops stop growing, and the resources become scarce, I think we all know that world governments aren't exactly going to be cooperative with each other. So yes, while the Hail Mary team is a bit more optimistic than your usual Tarkovsky affair, it's safe to say that the long-term outlook is right in line with his work. The film is also far more focused on Ryan Grace himself, the man sent across the stars to the Tau Ceti system, not on the worldwide conflicts that arise from the dimming sun. One of the more beloved jokes in the film is when Rocky first enters Grace's ship and runs around complaining about how messy it is. Because yeah, it's a complete pigsty. Not only is this because Grace lives alone on the ship, but based on most of his behavior in the movie, he's clearly not in the right mental state to keep things clean and organized, if you know what I mean. He knows he agreed to a suicide mission, and he can't remember why. He also doesn't have any faith in himself that he could possibly get this done, but that lack of faith will be discussed in depth later in this video. His messy spaceship is actually a pretty direct parallel to the Solaris station. Sure, the Hail Mary is far more high-tech, unlike the very homey, house-like design of the Solaris station, but both films show the ship in complete disarray as a reflection of the mental state of their characters. You'd expect a futuristic piece of machinery like this to be clean, sleek, almost minimalist, but instead both are filled with trash and dirty clothes to reflect the sensitivity and the weakness of the main characters. Grace's journey is actually very similar to that of Chris Kelvin's during Solaris. This gets a little bit confusing, because Solaris is the name of the movie, the name of the planet they explore in the movie, and the name of the station that orbits the planet. So you have the film Solaris, the planet Solaris, and the Solaris station orbiting the planet Solaris. Got it? Solaris, the planet, creates on the station what are known as visitors, ghosts of the past that bring back powerful, dark memories for the station's crew. They're seemingly alive and conscious despite the contradiction that they're copies of people either alive or dead from Earth. For Chris, heading into deep space serves as a challenge to face the emotional trauma of his past by confronting the loss of the love of his life. In Project Hail Mary, Grace has a visitor of his own, Rocky the Iridian. In this regard, the films are two sides of the same coin. Grace was sent on this mission because he had no friends, no family, not even a dog. He was all alone on Earth, so the team viewed this as having nothing to lose. But out in the depths of space, he finally finds someone he's able to connect with, bond with, and that he cares so deeply about, he can finally push himself beyond what he thinks he's capable of. Visitors might dredge up the horrors of the past, while Rocky serves as a companion for the present that Grace fears losing in the future, but both story elements force their protagonist to push far past the issues that held them back while they were on Earth. So that was a bit more of a one-to-one comparison, Project Hail Mary versus Tarkovsky's space film Solaris, and seeing the similarities there. But thematically, Project Hail Mary remains very closely tied to Tarkovsky's wider works. One of Tarkovsky's most iconic films, Andrei Rublev. Sorry, Professor, I've been dreading saying the name of that movie all semester. I think you noticed. I might have danced around it a few times in class, even if it made my sentence a little clunky. I'm bad at accents. I apologize for mispronouncing it. The film exemplifies the discussion of spiritual crisis. Tarkovsky views the journey of faith as a difficult but required condition for human survival during stagnant times. The film details how the 15th century Russian icon painter is constantly tested by the brutality and the moral decay of his surrounding world. His faith is tested by devastating hardships and acts of violence that make the world seem devoid of God's presence, leading to a spiritual breakdown where he refuses to paint. This choice to abandon his art, which was meant to inspire and guide, shows how a loss of faith in one person can cause spiritual harm to society at large. This thematic foundation highlights that while faith may not always be the definitive answer, it is a necessary force that prevents things from getting worse in times of uncertainty. Again, you may be asking yourself, 3-hour violent historical drama about a Christian painter. Silly guys in space. How same? Great question. What is the name of the movie? In real life, we had the Apollo mission to take us to the moon, symbolizing the Greek god Apollo and the image of him riding his chariot across the sun to symbolize the lofty goals of the mission. And we just had the Artemis II mission to orbit the moon, which again named after a Greek god, who is literally the god of the moon, but it's also a Greek word meaning safe or unharmed. Again, it's a symbolic name. The Martian and Project Hail Mary were both initially written by Andy Weir and then adapted to the screen by Drew Goddard. And in The Martian, the crew that goes to Mars is named the Ares team. This is again in keeping with NASA's real-world naming scheme, going with the Greek god who stands for courage. For Project Hail Mary, they could have continued this naming scheme, probably going with a god like Tyche who symbolizes fortune, chance, or fate, but instead, they went very direct with it, the Christian Hail Mary prayer, reaching out to the gods themselves, asking for a lending hand. Just before leaving Earth, Grace asked Dr. Strat, the lead scientist on the mission, if she's religious. And her answer is basically, I don't know, probably not. Scientifically, this mission probably shouldn't work, but I do believe that it will. That was a paraphrase, obviously. Even in my 3 times seeing the movie, I unfortunately don't have the entire script to memorize, so I'm doing my best. Just like in Rublev, we see a world at a standstill of progress. Rather than the never-ending sorrow of medieval times and stagnation of development, we have the literal incoming end of the world as everything will dim and freeze over, crops will stop to grow, resources will scatter. Scatter becomes scarce. It will be all over for us. And here we have a non-religious character practically looking down the barrel of the lens and saying, I'm not religious, but it helps to have faith in these times. Carrying forward almost the exact same themes as Andrei Rublev, except they didn't have to kill a horse to get the point across this time. So, bonus points, I guess. So, this is more of a global discussion of faith. When society stagnates, faith might not be the solution, but it certainly can't hurt. But what about our protagonist specifically? Well, Rublev and Grace are pretty different in this regard. We watch Andrei lose his faith and ability to paint over the course of the film before being inspired to start again at the very end of the story. If I really wanted to, I could stretch it and say Grace becoming a disgraced scientist way before the start of the film is the same as Andrei losing his faith, but that's just it. It's a bit of a stretch, and we don't really need to go there to find enough evidence. It's also that Rublev and Grace's stories follow such different structures. Grace is mostly a gradual buildup of faith across the course of the film as he gets small victory after small victory, while Rublev is more of a push and pull, a give and take as his faith grows and wanes over time based on the situations around him and the horrors he's witnessing in medieval times. But Grace does compare much better to another protagonist of Tarkovsky's, the Stalker, from Stalker. Stalker is my personal favorite Tarkovsky film, and it is my professor's all-time favorite film. So if there's one movie you're going to take out of this that you're really going to go sit down and watch afterwards, I really strongly recommend it be this one. Yes, it's still a very slow, very quiet, somber film, so don't expect it to be some crazy action-packed journey, but it's very, very interesting, believe me. During the era of Russian stagnation, where again, all seemed pretty hopeless for civilians, one man guides others through a strange exclusion zone full of physics-breaking anomalies. At the center of this zone lies a room set to grant the wish of anyone who enters. If you've seen Annihilation, think The Shimmer, but a little more subtle. Annihilation is actually very, very heavily influenced by Stalker. It's almost like a modern-day remake in a way. So just don't expect it to be that over the top, but they're very similar. It actually would have been pretty easy to do Annihilation and just directly compare it to Stalker for this video, but that would be taking the easy way out, and mama didn't raise no weenie. The important thing here is the reason why Stalker enters the zone. It's the only place he has purpose. Guiding others through the zone provides him an importance and an authority that he lacks in the real world. Out there, he's a low-life criminal with nothing to offer the world, but in here, he's the guide to the greatest treasure on Earth. Without the zone, Stalker would truly have nothing. While there is clearly something not of this world going on within the zone, the movie does largely leave it up to interpretation if the wish-granting room is real. The two men who follow the Stalker during the film, the writer and professor, are meant to test the Stalker's faith in the room. Will he ever give in and admit it may not be real, that this whole time he's just been a man walking through a normal forest for no actual reward or purpose? The film isn't about whether or not the Stalker's faith is strengthened or weakened by the end of the film. It's about his exhaustion, the amount of work it takes to keep up this faith. It leaves the Stalker in a state of pure exhaustion upon his return because he's once again reminded of his depressing life. As difficult as it may be to maintain, the Stalker needs his faith to survive. And don't get it confused, this is not a faith in some higher power and that the zone is truly dangerous. This is about a faith in himself, that he can do something in this world that matters and makes a difference, even if it's just in the lives of the individuals he leads to the room. And yes, Grace's journey is not a one-to-one match with this. All of the flashbacks to Earth show he has no faith in himself. He doesn't understand why the team wants him over anyone else, he stays there thinking he's just for support, and when Grace is finally called upon to go on the mission, he crumbles immediately. Grace is dragged, literally kicking and screaming onto the ship as everyone else around him says he's perfect for the job and will succeed. It's actually a complete reverse of the Stalker. Grace has no faith in himself while the world tries to convince him otherwise. Grace's time on the ship provides him with victory after victory as he proves to himself he really can do this. He masters zero-G, he learns to pilot the ship, he finds ways to communicate with Rocky. He builds up his will to keep going by believing in himself and that he can finish the mission even if he won't live to see the benefits. Grace and the Stalker are forced out of their unusual environments where they feel alone and useless into a beautiful new world on the edge of what we know, and in so doing, find the faith in themselves to keep going. We're getting close to the end here, but there's one more influence I'd like to make note of. We've already discussed more one-to-one parallels between Project Hail Mary and 3 of Tarkovsky's films, so I don't think there's a need to introduce a whole other film to explain to you. But there's one theme that persists across essentially all of Tarkovsky's work: the power of nature. Throughout his life and his work, Tarkovsky attempted to answer the question of what impact humanity has on the world and what our place is in the universe at large. Do we exist just to destroy the natural world? Why are we constantly moving away further from nature, and what does this movement mean for society at large? What form does the afterlife take, if there even is one, and can a person truly be good? The zone in Stalker is something outside our understanding of nature and physics. The planet Solaris calls into question what it means to be alive and conscious. Andrei Rublev struggles to continue to create art in a time of such pain and evil in the world. And Ryan Grace is just a man, sent on a mission to save the greatest force in the universe, the stars themselves. Without their light, we'd never be able to interact with the natural world at all. Hell, the natural world wouldn't even exist without the heat and the light of the sun to let all life flourish. It takes another force of nature to stop the sun, with the living astrophage traveling across the universe and feeding off the energy of the stars. Throughout the film, we're shown humanity's inventions are nothing compared to the power of nature. Sure, we were able to build an interstellar ship super easily, but the only thing that could possibly power the ship or allow it to move at a speed that makes the mission remotely viable is astrophage. The only thing that can stop astrophage is, again, not human technology, but the microscopic life on the planet Adrian. And we see that trying to control these elements leads to, let's call it, extreme difficulties. Grace is the one sent on the mission purely because of a minor miscalculation when working with the astrophage that caused a massive explosion, killing a huge chunk of the Project Hail Mary crew. The Talmeba that Grace breeds to be stored in Xenonite for transportation quickly learns to escape the material, placing his ship and Rocky's in massive danger. Nature's power is sudden, frightening, unstoppable, but it's still beautiful. To show off the astrophage, the team behind Project Hail Mary pulled off these effects practically, using cameras able to read infrared light. Rather than overly rely on green screens and VFX, they built practical sets, puppets, and special cameras to highlight a natural beauty of the world we'd never be able to witness without technology. I can't say whether or not Tarkovsky agrees with this, if needing technology to see this at all is a step too far for him. But if cinema wasn't meant to show us natural wonders of the world we'd otherwise never be able to see, in moments we will never forget, I don't know what it was made for. So I will leave you with this. Tarkovsky believed that horses were the ultimate invention, that humanity would never invent a tool more useful or more beautiful than the horse. So with that in mind, he would definitely be a fan of BoJack Horseman.